From Muga silk and Lever's lace to Japanese denim and vicuña wool, we're unravelling the stories behind the world's most expensive fabrics and textiles. Our first stop is the Assam region of India, the only place in the world where Muga silk can be made. This unique fabric has a naturally golden sheen and comes from the cocoon of Muga silkworms.
To make Muga silk, laborers must unwind a Muga caterpillar's cocoon into a single long seamless thread. And to make just one sari, about 1,000 cocoons need to be unraveled. A sari made of Muga silk can cost up to $6,500, thousands more than other saris. But the caterpillars needed to make the cocoons, also called Muga seeds, might be in danger of disappearing. And without them, farmers can't produce Muga silk at all. So why is Muga silk so expensive? And what's hurting the caterpillars needed to make it? Muga can only be made in the Assam region of India. It's so central to the culture here that there's even a traditional song about the golden thread. Muga silk is unique because of its naturally lustrous gold color. It can last up to 100 years, and it's said to offer protection by absorbing 85% of harmful UV rays. But these properties also make it more expensive, and the labor and expenses required to make Muga silk bump the price even further.
Farmers has to collect the seed cocoons with a very high price from different parts of the Northeast Assam. This is because of the unavailability of Muga seeds, number one. And number two, a huge number of manual labor has to be put in for conducting the rearing of Muga.
Pokhila futuai khori pora sujjo udoy hoa pora sujjo osto joaloike তেওঁলোকে এই কৃষি কাৰ্যত নিমজ্জিত থাকে.
They pick a male and female moth to mate and tie the female to the korika, a stick with a hook made of thatch grass or twine. This is where the female will lay its eggs. Rearers then transfer the korika to a sam tree, the host plant for Muga worms. Here, tiny ash-colored larvae known as chai Muga hatch and begin to feed on the leaves. But the larvae are vulnerable at this stage, so farmers need to keep a watchful eye to ensure they can form the cocoons needed to make Muga silk. They shoot clay pellets into the fields to keep potential predators at bay and protect the larvae. After 1 or 2 months, they can collect the mature caterpillars.
And the mature caterpillars are collected by the farmers at night, and they put the mature caterpillars into some jalis for cocooning.
Here, the caterpillars rest and weave their cocoons for 3 days, until they fully empty the silk glands and enter pupation. Not all cocoons are used for silk. Some are stored in the sakori pera, a bamboo box for keeping cocoons and moths so farmers can continue breeding Muga worms. The hatched cocoons are used for rougher fabrics, such as winter clothes and blankets. But the most expensive Muga fabrics come from unhatched cocoons. That's because the silk in these cocoons isn't torn and can be unraveled into a continuous thread. Besides being limited in which cocoons they can use, weavers also need a lot of them. For weavers who buy cocoons, this doesn't come cheap.
তেতিয়াহ'লে আমাৰ শিপিনীসকলৰ সম্পূৰ্ণ লোকচান হোৱা নাই জানো 15 চনত যেটো আজি 21 চনতো এই এখন কাপোৰৰ দাম একেটাই হৈ আছে কিন্তু যেটো মুগাৰ আমি কঠিয়াটো কিনিছো কিন্তু সেই দামটো 50% বাঢ়িব.
To produce 1 kilogram of Muga yarn, Monica needs 5,000 cocoons, which is enough for about 5 saris. And that 1 kilogram could take her a week, because to make the yarn, she needs to reel the golden thread, a process that demands special care. Traditionally, the Assamese add dried banana peel or paddy thatch ash to the mixture, which degums the cocoon and gives the thread a better sheen. And when it comes to Muga, the shinier the silk, the more valuable it will be. Two people then use a pangoi to carefully reel the long muga silk threads in a continuous motion. Reelers gently pull from several cocoons and join the thin strings together to make one thicker thread. They must make sure each thread has a consistent thickness, or the yarn won't be as valuable. Finally, the reelers load the muga silk yarn onto bamboo looms, where Assamese women weave it into the desired fabric. Some of the most intricate saris made from regular silk can cost $250 in India, but the same design on a muga silk fabric can kick the price up into the thousands. Muga silk is the pride of Assam, which accounts for almost all of India's muga silk production, but the profits are limited.
নিমজ্জিত থাকে আৰু তাৰ পৰা তেওঁলোকে যিটো প্ৰডাক্ট কৰে তাৰো উচিত মূল্য পাবলৈ নাই ধৰক 1000 মুগাৰ দাম যদি 5000 হয় আমাৰ কৃষকৰ পৰা কিনে 3000 টকাত মধ্যভোগী আৰু 2000 টকা প্ৰফিট খায় এনেকৈ আমাৰ কৃষক মুগা ফাৰ্মাৰবিলাক এনেকৈ জীৱিকা নিৰ্বাহ কৰি আছে
While muga farmers work tirelessly to ensure the moths survive, it's not only up to them. The muga moth is continuously threatened by the climate crisis. Muga silkworms are reared outdoors, and exposure to even the slightest change in temperature and humidity can wreak havoc. During high temperatures in 2018, farmers had to delay rearing for 10 to 15 days to avoid silkworm deaths. Losing this time during peak commercial season, when production is ramping up, means producers can end up with less muga silk to sell.
This is one of the major threats to the muga in the coming decades. And second is the pollution. And the pollution generated by the tea gardens and petrochemicals. Tea gardens use some very destructive chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, etc., etc.
These chemicals have toxic effects on the muga moth that impact its mortality and ability to reproduce. This can threaten the relatively low production of muga silk compared to other expensive Indian-made silks like mulberry silk. Only about 239 metric tons of muga silk were produced in India in 2021. Compare that to over 24,000 metric tons of mulberry silk that were produced in the same year. According to Jatol, this doesn't meet global demand for muga, and it drives the price even higher. The limited supply of authentic muga silk has led some producers to fill the gap with fakes. To combat the rise of fake muga, in 2007, the Indian government designated Assam muga silk as a protected geographical indication, or GI product. This means authentic muga silk can only come from Assam. But Jatol doesn't believe it's done much to help Assam's muga silk production.
Because in my calculation, muga silkworm is under the extinction depth. All the habitat area, the muga silkworm, the host plant sector, will be lost, totally lost in 2046.
That's why Jatol and other muga farmers are relying on environmental conservation efforts, now and in the future, to ensure the survival of this millennia-old fabric. It takes between 1 to 2 months for Hiso Manabe to dye these threads a deep indigo blue. Denim made from these threads will maintain this rich color, and so will Manabe's nails for 3 weeks. That's because Manabe uses real indigo instead of the synthetic dyes most jeans are made with today. A pair of Momotaro jeans dyed with natural indigo can cost over $2,000. But using real indigo is just one element that can raise the price of Japanese denim. Each stage of production requires meticulous attention. So what exactly makes Japanese denim different? And is that enough to make it so expensive? In basic terms, Japanese denim refers to denim made in Japan, but today it often implies selvage denim. The name comes from the way fabric is woven on these old shuttle looms. They weave fabric with a sealed or self-finished edge, hence the name selve edge. It means the end of the fabric won't fray or unravel. You'll notice a pair of selvage jeans by the cuff. There's typically a colored line along the outseam. This type of denim is made here in Kojima, Japan.
本当に10代からジーンズはこの町のジーンズを履いてたと。
Momotaro is one of Kojima's most well-known denim brands. But before Momotaro makes denim, it must first dye the threads. The company's most expensive jeans are hand-dyed with natural indigo. Natural indigo comes from the leaves of the indigofera plant. Dyeing fabric with natural indigo has been a valued art form in Japan for centuries.
単純作業の繰り返しよね。根気がいるのと原料が高い。これはやはりもっと工夫していかなきゃやっぱり量産できないと思う。
Manabe dyes 60 rolls of cotton over several days. He wrings each roll out and hangs it up to dry before dyeing another.
5回でこのぐらい。これは乾くと半分ぐらいの色になっちゃう。
Manabe must dye each roll a total of about 30 times. Otherwise, the color won't be a dark enough blue. Dyeing jeans this way doesn't only take longer, it also costs more. A kilogram of some synthetic indigo can cost between $4 and $5. Depending on the quality, natural indigo might cost 10 times that.
非常に高い。大体我々がその調達するのは1票15万ぐらいするんだね。
That one bale is only enough to dye about 15 pairs of jeans. Although using natural dye raises the cost of production, it has unique effects on jeans that can't be produced by synthetic dyes.
植物には青の染料だけじゃなくて余分な染料もあるんで、少し黄みがかった染料が含まれている。そういったものがやはり微妙に青の色を変化させる。そこにはインディゴでは出せない色が。
Today, cheaper synthetic dyes have mostly replaced natural ones, so jeans still made with natural dyes are often considered a premium product. Which is partly why Momotaro's Kinton or gold-labeled jeans are worth over $2,000. The increased price of this pair is a nod to the extra effort, skill, and money needed to dye the threads by hand and get the color just right. Not all Japanese denim or Momotaro jeans are made with natural indigo. But even so, the price remains high, around $200 to $300 for a pair like this. And that goes back to the way Japanese denim is woven. Before Toyota made cars, it made looms like this. Originally introduced in the 1920s, these Toyota looms are no longer made today. And although they look and sound like they're working fast, weaving fabric this way takes 5 times longer than weaving on modern projectile looms.
もともと世界で、アメリカで作られたジーンズもその当時はその機械しかなかった。もう今1世紀経ってもヴィンテージのそのジーンズがやはり1900年あるいは1920年、ね、あたりのジーンズがいい。でやはり何百万も出して古着を買い集めるわけです。
Despite the looms being automated, an experienced Momotaro technician has to keep a close eye on them as they run. He checks to see each loom is working smoothly and that all the threads are aligned correctly. Even so, it's possible something will go wrong.
直しながら使ってますね。部品は新しく作られていませんので、その部品一つ一つを、古い機械から、外して、使ったり、
On top of weaving slowly, the looms produce fabric less than a yard wide. That's about half the width of non-selvage denim, so producers need more fabric to make a pair of selvage jeans. This is yet another factor that increases the cost of production and ultimately the final price of the jeans. Shuttle looms are also less precise than projectile looms, but variations in the fabric make each yard unique. And ironically, that's what gives these jeans one of their biggest appeals. While most other jeans have a smooth surface, Japanese denim is a little bit rougher.
この凹凸がやはりデニムで一番大切な経年変化の縦落ち、当たり、そういったものに現れている。
While most Momotaro jeans are made on the automated looms, the most expensive gold label jeans are produced with an even slower, more traditional method. By hand with an antique loom. It takes 1 hour for Kazuki Ikeda to weave just 10 centimeters of fabric. While this process raises the price, the extra effort gives the jeans a distinctly different feel.
一番の違いというのはやはりこの肌触り。通常の汎用のものでしたら、ちょっと硬さであったりゴワゴワした感じがするんですけれども、手織りの場合は最初から、柔らかい、質感で履いていただくことができます。
And for denim enthusiasts, traveling from Thailand to Tokyo is worth the trip to buy Momotaro's most expensive pair.
Usually when you brought a new pair of jeans, you feel it's a little bit hard and you feel like it's a little bit hard to move at first, right? But this one, even from the start, it feels so comfortable, like you have worn it for some times.
After the fabric is woven by hand or shuttle loom, it heads to the sewing room. According to Heddles, on average, most other types of denim weigh between 11 and 14 ounces, while most denim from Japan weighs 20 ounces. A heavier fabric makes Naomi Takebayashi's job more challenging.
で一番太いのはタコ糸状態の0番はもう本当に太くてとても縫いづらいです。年数で言えば本当に何年縫っても私らも何年縫っても難しいところもありますしね。難しいというか縫うのはもう全然だけどあれでよかったかなとかいうことはありますね。
Another cornerstone of Japanese denim is the artisanal nature of the way the jeans are finally formed. At Momotaro, all the stitching is done by hand. The same goes for adding each copper rivet. The final look and feel of a finished pair largely depend on Takebayashi's dedication to detail. Because shuttle looms are less precise, the fabric will naturally have several imperfections. But if Momotaro's retail stores find anything wrong with a pair of jeans, they mark it with a small sticker and send it here to the quality control room. Takebayashi sifts through the flagged jeans using a tweezer to repair each marked spot. Momotaro is one of around 40 denim makers in Kojima, considered the birthplace of denim in Japan. While Japanese denim from this city has found a luxury category to call its own, the denim industry hasn't been prominent in Kojima for very long.
世の中日本中がですねやっぱり、アメリカに憧れて東京オリンピック1964年ですかね、それを契機にですねガラッとやはり自由とアメリカというのにすごい憧れが強くなり、音楽も映画もそうですけどもファッションも、その中でも学生運動でいろんなものが、もう自由奔放にいろんな形が、行われてきた。でその中でやはり1965年、が初めてこの小島というところでジーンズの生産が始まったと。
In the decades since, Japanese denim has reached far outside Japan. Today, it's considered one of the finest types of denim in the world. Thousands of individual threads, loaded by hand, are woven together to create one of the most intricate fabrics in the world, Lever's lace. But making this lace isn't easy. A new design can take 3 months to produce, and depending on the materials, 1 square meter can cost over $500. Despite the premium price, the lace industry in France is a fraction of its former size, and it's hard to find new lace makers to continue the trade. So how is Lever's lace made? And why is it so expensive? This is a Lever's loom. It's 6 meters long and over 100 years old. These looms were invented to match the quality of handmade lace. Each design is translated from paper into these punch cards, which are fed into the loom to create a pattern. These looms are essential for making Lever's lace, but there are only a few hundred left today, 40 of which are at this factory in the northern French city of Caudry. John Brock has been making lace since 1889.
We are selling holes. We are selling a fabrics with mainly holes, so it's mainly empty, but it is why it's so interesting, because we have artistic possibility. Every day we are making something different compared to the other fabric.
Unlike cheaper, mass-produced lace, designs aren't embroidered on top of fabric. They're continuously woven, creating a beautifully complex pattern. The machine might do the weaving, but it takes around 20 people to produce Lever's lace. It all starts with a design. Jean Brock uses a library of old designs, some from as far back as 1925. But it also creates new designs, which can take 3 to 5 weeks to complete. This is the most time-consuming part of the process. But the most delicate is threading the loom. Thousands of individual threads feed into the machine. Detailed designs need more threads, which raises the price. Workers load these small discs, called bobbins, by hand, keeping each thread separate and taut.
Oui, c'est pas facile. Hein. Il faut vraiment avoir une bonne vision et beaucoup de patience. C'est très difficile.
Workers place each bobbin into a carriage and check to ensure consistent weight and tension.
When we set up a machine, we set up more than 15,000 yarns into the machine. We start from scratch, we start from zero, so we need to put every yarn at the right position.
Once the loom starts running, lace makers are surrounded by an ocean of sound. Despite being such an old machine, each loom runs with extreme precision. The loom weaves a design line by line as workers refill it with more thread. Loom experts, called tullists, are in charge of overseeing the whole weaving process. They watch each loom, looking and listening for any tears. A mistake at this step could seriously set back production. If there's a break, tullists reach into the loom, carefully repairing individual threads. Frederic has been working on these looms for 26 years. He checks to ensure that the original design is being recreated on the loom.
Ce qui est passionnant dans ce métier, c'est que c'est des vieilles machines qui ont 100 ans, voire plus. On sort de leur dentelle très fin et de très bonne qualité. Et c'est vraiment ça qui est passionnant.
Each step requires an expert, but this makes finding new workers challenging.
En ce moment, on a 6 jeunes ici en formation. Ça fait quelques mois qu'ils sont là, mais pour qu'ils commencent seulement à être bien formés, il faut au moins 3-4 ans. Et pour avoir un tuliste indépendant sur un métier, il faut compter 5-6 ans.
It's a work of passion, and it's for that reason that all the people who work with us, most of them spend 15, 20, 25 years in the same company. That's the main difficult things to find for the new generation. But even after 20 or 25 years, you still learn things. It's so fascinating and it's a passion for people.
Mon père, étant tuliste, m'a proposé de venir essayer le métier de raccommodeuse. Les filles qui étaient présentes m'ont tout appris.
Isabelle is a lace inspector. Lace right off the loom is never perfect, so it's the inspector's job to spot any mistakes.
Donc ici, le tuliste a signalé un défaut par une pastille. Donc ici, le but, c'est de regarder. Donc là, effectivement, on voit qu'il y a un écart, donc c'est un défaut. Je tire bien pour bien voir. Je cherche les défauts, les trous. Donc là, on peut voir un trou. Donc quand c'est comme ça, hop, on enfile l'aiguille.
These highly skilled workers inspect every inch of the lace and repair each section by hand. The repairs must be indistinguishable from the rest of the lace.
Donc ici encore pareil, hein, on appelle ça un manque. En fait, il y a un fil qui a sauté, le fil il est là. Donc hop, elles mettent une épingle toujours.
Lever's lace with no additions costs around $45 to $90 per square meter. That's over 10 times the price of mass-produced lace. But lace with add-ons like pearls, crystals, or sequins can cost several $100s more. Dresses or lingerie made with Lever's lace usually cost a few $100s at minimum. But some can cost a lot more.
For the haute couture things, it can go just no sky limits.
In addition to the materials and complicated manufacturing, the looms themselves increase the price. Lever's looms aren't made today. Companies have to maintain the looms that they have. It's not impossible to build a Lever's loom, but the costs required to manufacture it would be more than the demand for the product. Because of that, lace manufacturers rely on existing looms and even share spare parts between companies. But the lace industry in France used to look a lot different. In the early 20th century, there were tens of thousands of lace-related jobs. But as production modernized and fashion trends shifted, the industry consolidated to two main parts of France, Caudry and Calais. Today, only a few thousand jobs remain, and only a handful of the traditional lace producers are left. Competition from cheaper lace manufacturers has eliminated a lot of the industry. Many remaining producers focus on the high-end market.
I think our customers are really different, but we still always looking what the mass production does. Our main advantage is to be ahead of the fashions. We work with a creative trends office to know what the fashion will be, and we need to anticipate the next fashion trends.
Demand for Jean Broc's lace had actually been increasing for the last few years, but the COVID-19 pandemic hit the industry hard. Brands like Chanel and Ralph Lauren rely on companies that create Lever's lace, but if demand doesn't increase, it'll be difficult to maintain the industry.
I hope so, it will be easier. I hope so, but I'm not sure. We just spent 2 terrible years, so I hope now it will be more comfortable to invest and to train the new generation of people.
This is Kenji. He's using a centuries-old technique to dye silk for a kimono. It's physically demanding, but that's not the only challenge. He has to match this colour exactly, making adjustments by eye. And it's essential that the fabric inside this barrel remains white. Kenji won't know if he's successful until he opens the lid. This is one of over 20 steps required to make a kimono. You can buy a cotton kimono for $300, but a handmade chiso kimono can cost over $10,000. And the company's most expensive kimonos cost 10 times that. We followed 10 artisans, step by step, to find out what makes these kimonos so expensive. Versions of the kimono have been worn for centuries. Today, the kimono is viewed as formal wear, worn on special occasions like weddings or coming-of-age ceremonies. Part of the reason why Chiso's kimonos are so expensive is that they're made entirely out of silk. It takes around 12 meters of silk to make a single kimono. Chiso collaborates with a network of highly skilled artisans. Each step is done by hand and can take weeks to complete. This intricate design starts out as a simple sketch.
はじめだいたいこんな小さいやつで描いて、でこの大きくして、これ下当たりするのに1日ぐらいですかね。でもこれをきれいに描き直そう思ったらやっぱり1週間は絶対かかる、10日ぐらい。これなんか細かいから結構かかりますね。
Once the design is ready, Hiroshi transfers it to the silk. This step is called drafting, and it can take up to 2 weeks. Hiroshi ensures that the design looks good when the kimono is worn, not just on a flat surface. These lines are critical to the design process, but you won't see them on the finished kimono. This paint is washed away after acting as a guide for other artisans. Hiroshi has 37 years of experience, but he's still very critical of his work.
必ず書き上がってからやっぱりあそこはしといたらこうしといたらっていうのがたくさん出てくるもんで、仕事なんでね、時間的なもんもありますんで、で何十時間かけて家言うんやったらそら何回もそれこそ自己満足でね。
Chiso's kimonos are known for their complex patterns, painted using a technique called yuzen. Artisans trace the design with a glue-like paste that separates colours when the silk is painted. It also gives a characteristic white outline to parts of the design.
なのでその線で描いたところは最終的に染まらずに生地の白色が出てくるので、その輪郭線っていうのは白色になります。
It's patient work, but Ai says it's all worth it when she sees the finished kimono.
私はもともと中学生ぐらいの時からこういう着物を作る職人になりたいなと思って京都に出てきたんですけれど、やっぱり根気はすごくいりますし、やっぱ座りっぱなしなのでちょっと肩が凝ってきたりとかもあるんですけど、根気さえあればってところはあります。とあとはやっぱり綺麗に仕上がった時とかはすごく嬉しいです。
This is just the start of a months-long process. Pieces of the kimono are sent off to different artisans across Kyoto. Each artisan must perfect their section while keeping in mind the final design. At Yoko's workshop, she dyes the base of the kimono with these large brushes.
とりあえず早く動かすっていうのが刷毛ムラいかないコツですし、着物を染めようと思ったら仕立てた時に全部の濃度が一緒になってるってことは同じリズムで全部いくっていうことなんですね。
Yoko and her assistant blend the edges, working around the design. But this isn't the only way kimonos are dyed. Some are dyed using a technique called shibori, which creates bold colours and distinct shapes. But it's very tedious work. Before Kenji starts working, artisans sew up the silk and bind this barrel.
子供自分からね、稽古して、教えてもらってやってるんです。ですから何十年ってなりますけどね。
The seam Hiromi is sewing forms the edge of the design. Then, Matsuyama wraps the silk along this wooden tub and tacks it into place before he attaches the lid. This step is key to preventing dye from bleeding inside. Now, it's time for Kenji to dip the silk. He works quickly but constantly monitors the silk to ensure it's dyed correctly. If the barrel remains in the dye for too long, the colours will start to bleed. Kenji cuts a strip of fabric, compares it to the swatch, and adjusts its dye accordingly.
配合染め屋によってみんな違いますけど、特の場合は反対色で先させていくから、入れすぎたらものすごく効くんです。反対色やから。
After the dyeing is complete, Kenji lifts the lid and examines his work. All of these steps combine to tell a story through the design of the kimono. Themes of nature or the seasons are common, while some designs reference poems or plays. One of the most skilled and delicate steps is the yuzen dyeing. Tomoko has 25 years of experience making kimonos.
具体的にどのような色をこの着物だったらどのようなイメージを膨らませてどのような色にしていくかっていうだいたい具体的な色を拾っていきます。
Yuzen dyeing has been practiced for centuries and has become an iconic feature of high-end kimonos. The technique is more expensive and time-consuming than screen printing, but Chiso's customers are willing to pay a premium for the result. Long-sleeved kimonos with complicated designs can take 2 to 3 weeks to paint.
自分で合わした色を全部一つ一つここにテストをしてで記録として残しておくものです。でこれを見て次にこれを合わすにはだいたいどうしたらいいかっていうのはもう入ってるっていうことです。数字にはできないので技術的に難しいものはやはり写実調のいわゆる自然のままのような花でありますとか草花紋っていうのの
The final step in the process is for artisans to apply gold leaf and embroider complex designs. Embroidery alone can take weeks to months depending on the design. The more embroidery a kimono has, the more expensive it will be. When all the pieces fall into place, the finished kimono is a work of art, a testament to the skill of each artisan who has worked on the silk.
着物1着作るのにだいたい20名ぐらいの人が関わってます。その手仕事のやっぱり良さ、細部であったり、それぞれの工程の非常に高い技術が要求されまして、それはやっぱり機械ではなかなかできない本当に細部の美しさであったり、こういった展示をするときに、柄がしっかり見えやすいように仮縫いを行っているという状態が、販売されている状態ですね。まずお客様の寸法を採寸をしてである程度は規定の寸法でお仕立てはするんですね。
Chiso's kimonos take 6 to 12 months to make, and those hundreds of hours of labour are reflected in the price. Most range from $7,000 to $14,000, but some of Chiso's elaborate designs cost over $100,000. And the accessories traditionally worn with a kimono increase the price even more.
で、お着物がなぜ高くなるかっていうことなんですけれども、いかに職人がどれだけ手を加えたかっていう、それは友禅の細かさであったり、もちろん分量も関係してきますし。
Customers looking for less expensive kimonos might choose to rent or to buy refurbished ones, which usually cost a few $100s, but still provide good quality. Buying a cotton kimono, or one without complex yuzen, is much more affordable. These kimonos are often worn for less formal events. But current demand for expensive, complex kimonos is low. Kimono sales declined dramatically in the 90s during Japan's economic crash, and the industry has continued to shrink. Today, it's around 14% of the size it was in 1975. Chiso sells around 4,000 kimonos each year, but the relevance of the garment in modern life is limited.
両極だと思うんですけど、いやもう全く関心がないわっていう方と、やっぱりちょっと着物にやっぱ日本人だから着物に目覚めてきたっていう方と。
Further complicating matters, the artisans it relies upon to maintain production are getting older.
で、やっぱり伝統的な技術はやっぱり職人の技術力が高いっていうことが条件なんですが、だいたい職人さん今で60代とか70代の方たくさんいらっしゃるんで、 30年以上仕事していただいている方が多いと思います。今新しい職人さんを見つけるのはやっぱりそういう職人の仕事をやりたいっていうそういう若い方もいらっしゃいますんで、ただ全体的には職人の数はやっぱり減っていってますね。
Meet the elusive vicuña, whose wool is worth more than gold. Here in northern Bolivia, a single kilogram of this wool can sell for $370. And once the product hits shelves in Italy, a coat made of vicuña wool can cost around $35,000. But herding communities in the Apalobamba mountain range can only shear vicuñas once every 2 years. And while conservation efforts have ensured that vicuñas thrive in their natural habitat, this can mean danger for communities rounding up the wild herd. So how are conservationists and local communities working together? And why is the wool they produce so expensive? Vicuña wool is extremely fine compared to other furs. Vicuña wool density is measured in microns. An adult vicuña produces wool that measures 13 microns. Compare that to alpaca wool at 22 to 24 microns, or llama at around 30 microns. This ultra-fine fur is what makes vicuña wool the most expensive textile in the world. But to produce fine wool like this, the first step is capturing the herd. The herding day begins with a traditional ceremony. And then, in comes the fleet.
Sin moto no vas a pillar ni una vicuña, ¿no? En la moto también hay accidentes que sufren. Eso es lo más costoso. Y se friega, entonces no cuesta simplemente unos 200, 300 bolivianos, sino que hasta 1000, 2000, a veces algunos así, ¿no? Si es motor, todo.
The community began preparing for this capture a month in advance. In addition to monitoring the herd and tracking its movement, they must build what's called a capture chute. This acts as a herding device to move the vicuña toward a temporary enclosure.
Es en el arreo, ese es más difícil porque son dispersos los grupos, entonces a veces, digamos, hay poca gente. Puedes juntar todos, pero ya no haces llegar como hace rato. Se hacen vencer ya todo. Que la vicuña no es igual que alpaca. Alpaca tiene menos fuerza, la vicuña tiene más fuerza y fácil puede, digamos, accidentar, ¿no?
Once the vicuñas are properly grappled, they can be sheared. Their fur must be at least 2.5 centimeters long for collection. In an effort to organize the herding and conservation of the vicuña, a management board was created. Richard Ponciano serves as the authority of his province.
Al conseguir fibra de vicuña, digamos, las comunidades aumentan, ¿no?, su calidad de vida. Ayuda a todos los comunarios en su ingreso de la economía.
Embracing the herd of vicuñas is important, because raising camelids, like alpacas, is an essential way of life here in Bolivia.
Esta región simplemente vivimos de crianza de camellos, simplemente eso. No produce ni una papa en este sector. Todo es alpaca en ese sentido.
Unlike alpacas, vicuñas cannot be domesticated, and they are much more difficult to come by. But the good news is that the herd is growing. As of 2019, the vicuña count in Apalobamba was over 12,000, and it is estimated to have grown another 9% since then. This is an astonishing number, given that at one point there were only about 65 vicuñas left in this region. The vicuñas in the Apalobamba Integrated Management Natural Area, or ANMI, are now protected, and the years in between shearing are entirely focused on conservation.
El tema de la vicuña les ayuda mucho, les ayuda porque se trabaja, digamos, 1 o 2 semanas en el año Y de esto muchas comunidades, cada uno puede percibir 5, 6 mil, 7 mil bolivianos, dependiendo del éxito que hayan tenido en esa época.
That's Umber Alberto, a technical manager overseeing 18 different communities in the areas that shear vicuñas.
A veces nosotros tenemos un lema, decimos vicuña esquilada, vicuña salvada.
Managers like Umber make sure that communities are equipped to produce the best possible product, therefore getting the best price for their yield. Umber and other technical managers make sure that communities are equipped with mechanical shearing tools. Before 2019, shearing was done with scissors and took much longer. However, there are still communities using scissors in the highlands, where Umber and his team can't carry their power generators. No matter what, they always try to send one trained shearer out to each community. This helps ensure the highest quality product and keeps vicuñas and shearers safe.
Hace varios años atrás, las vicuñas los manejaban de la oreja, por ejemplo, los agarraban de la cola, ¿no? Un manejo pésimo, se ha iniciado así. En los últimos años se está tomando mucho en cuenta el bienestar animal, ¿no? Por lo que está prohibido manejarlo de la oreja, prohibido agarrar, porque es un animal muy delicado, como es un animal silvestre, se dañan, ¿no? Y se puede infectar y enfermar las vicuñas.
After a checkup on their health, the vicuñas are released back into the wild. Bolivia offers 3 kinds of fiber, mainly to European markets. These are raw fiber, cleaned fiber, and pre-carding fiber. Pre-carding fiber increases the initial cost of the product by 25%. This is a process that involves manually removing bristles from the fleece. Pre-carding 1 to 2 fleeces takes a full day.
Y posterior a esto ya se requiere de tecnología ya más avanzada, cosa que en Bolivia no tenemos.
Umber hopes to see more industrialization of the vicuña wool industry in Bolivia in the future. For now, this is the final stage many residents of Apalobamba will ever see. More than 90% of this fiber is bound for Italy, where it will be spun into designer textiles at Loro Piana.
Y nosotros aquí las comunidades sabemos que un traje de vicuña puede costar hasta $500,000, ¿no? Y hemos visto alguna vez que se han confeccionado así y para nosotros eso es una gran satisfacción.
But nearby artisans crafting garments out of vicuña wool would like to see more vicuña fiber stay local. They purchase it at a national level with an invoice from the state. This gets shared among at least 10 craftspeople who are only able to receive 2 or 3 kilograms per year.
Por eso hemos pedido que hasta los créditos no nos quieren dar pues por la vicuña. No les vamos a dar porque no está en un decreto, dice. Y entonces nosotros ya queremos que por lo menos salga un decreto, ¿no? Para que nos puedan facilitar un crédito y hacer productos más largos, las chompas, las chalinas, y una tienda de pura vicuña, ¿no? Ya no con alpaca.
For Mary, producing a sweater from vicuña fiber is the same amount of labor as producing an alpaca sweater. But she can earn a lot more from selling vicuña products. She says the state doesn't allow her enough raw material to make a significant profit selling vicuña products. To get enough material to meet demand, some artisans turn to the black market.
A las autoridades que nos puedan acceder ese lugar para que podamos llevar nosotros realmente los hermanos productores y productores que somos, que nosotros siempre hemos estado con la fibra natural, ¿no? Entonces, lo más costoso es...
As for the vicuña garments she sells locally,
el producto más costoso que es en Bolivia es la vicuña. Una manta cuesta 9,000 bolivianos, que es como $1,000, como $1,200 alrededor, ¿no? En Bolivia. Y el más finito está como 11,000 bolivianos. 11,000 bolivianos.
That's a far cry from the $11,000 that it costs to purchase a vicuña shawl from Loro Piana. But the vicuña industry is still growing in Bolivia as more communities develop the skills and tools necessary to produce the fiber.
Pero en Bolivia se mantiene esta unidad de las comunidades. Es sociocomunitario, es para las comunidades, son porque son de las comunidades también. Por eso dicen, no, es mi vicuña, es nuestra vicuña, y lo cuidan.